You ever wonder what really separates a good role-playing game from a truly great one? It's that feeling, right? That sense of pure flow where the rules just fade into the background and you are completely in the story. But let's be honest, we've all been there, that moment when the game itself just stops. Today, we're going to dig into that friction and explore how a totally different way of thinking about game design might be the answer. And this question right here, this is the heart of it all: speed and accessibility. You wouldn't think they're connected, but what if making a game easier to play for everyone was the accidental key to making it way faster and more exciting for anyone? That's the wild idea we're going to unpack. And this quote is really our foundation. It's a reminder that no matter what kind of game we're talking about, the designer has one job, one ultimate goal. And that job is to create an amazing experience for you. That's it. That's why we play. But here's the thing. That experience is super fragile. It can shatter in an instant when confusing rules or slow mechanics get in the way and just pull you right out of the world. So what happens when that immersion breaks? Well, that's what we're calling friction. These are all the little and sometimes big things where the game's mechanics or even its culture just get in the way of the fun. Let's start with mechanical friction, because we've all felt this. It's when the game stops feeling like an adventure and starts feeling like you're doing your taxes. You know, that linear processing where you have to ask "Mother, may I?" for every single action. Or the fatigue that sets in when the DM has to approve everything, becoming a total bottleneck. It all leads to that thing we all dread, the 60-minute combat turn, where the story grinds to a halt. Okay, I want you to just look at this number, 17%. Just let that sink in for a moment before I tell you what it actually means. So what is that? That is the accessibility score for the main website of the biggest name in the game, Dungeons and Dragons. Now, for context, anything under 50% is considered a high lawsuit risk under federal law. But look, this is about way more than legal trouble. This is a locked door. It's a fundamental barrier that stops players with disabilities from even getting a seat at the table. And this brings us to a whole other kind of friction, a cultural one. Some critics have pointed out what they see as a major disconnect. On one hand, the company's marketing puts a huge emphasis on representation and identity. But on the other hand, the foundational accessibility of its own platform is being overlooked. The argument is that by not making its digital front door usable for players with disabilities, the company creates this contradiction that pushes away a really important part of the gaming community. So if that's the problem, what does an alternative even look like? Well, let's check out a completely different philosophy. It's an open source system called the Multiverse Dice Master, and it was built from the ground up to eliminate these exact points of friction. So MDM, as it's called, is described as both a state machine, meaning it has clear, solid rules, and a story machine. The entire point is to fuse those two things together, so the rules don't just support the story, they actively create it. And they do this through a really cool philosophy called story physics. Okay, think of it like this. Instead of rolling dice to see if you hit, then rolling again for damage, then doing a bunch of math, you roll once to see how cinematic your action is. The whole system is built for speed and exciting results, not for slow, plodding simulation. And this gets us to the most obvious feature of the game, its speed. I mean, it is fast. So how in the world did they engineer a game to play at this pace? This chart just says it all, doesn't it? That hour-long mechanical slog we talked about becomes a 15-minute visceral thrill. That stop-and-go game of Mother, may I? Gets replaced by high-speed parallel processing. And here's the big one. You, the player, go from being a passive spectator waiting your turn to an empowered hero who's actually driving the story. So here's the secret sauce. It's all about parallel processing. You roll 2 d20s. That one single roll can instantly tell you the turn order, if you hit, and how much damage you do. All of it, resolved in a split second. By taking all that number crunching off your plate, the system frees up your brain to just focus on the fun part, being creative and telling a cool story. But where did this incredibly slick, efficient design actually come from? The answer is probably the most surprising and, I think, the most important part of this entire story. You might assume it was created to make games more exciting for streaming, or maybe just to fix the frustrations that a lot of veteran players have. But the real origin is something much, much deeper. And there it is. This super fast engine wasn't designed for hardcore gamers or Twitch streamers. It was born in clinical settings. It was built specifically to lower the cognitive load for players with disabilities and learning disorders. The speed was never the original goal. And that is the absolute key takeaway here. The exhilarating speed that makes this game so much fun was a complete accident. It was a byproduct of putting accessibility first. By solving for the players who needed the most support, the designers inadvertently created a better, faster, more engaging experience for everyone. So this whole situation presents us with two very, very different visions for where role-playing games could go from here. You've got a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach. On one side, you have the corporate model, a franchise with a protected brand, content that's tied to specific products, and marketing focused on identity. On the other side, you have an open-source tool built for the community, designed to be adapted and engineered from the ground up with accessibility as its cornerstone. Which leaves us with one final really important question. As this hobby keeps evolving, what do we value more? The brand that builds the world for us, or the tools that empower us, the players, to build our own? The answer to that is going to define the next generation of gaming.